What's up, guys? ClimaxCombo here. I'm Licious Kid.
I'm Checkers.
And today we're going to do an updated Weiß Schwarz tutorial for 2022.
In this video, we're going to try and cover everything you'll need to know to pick up a couple decks and start playing.
We're going to go over what Weiß Schwarz is and the different type of formats it offers, the type of cards in Weiß Schwarz, the basic deck construction. We're going to go over what the play area looks like and what each zone does. Then we're going to go over how a turn progresses. And lastly, we're going to put it all together by showing you guys a sample gameplay. So to start things off, we're going to go over what Weiß Schwarz is. Weiß Schwarz is a trading card game from Bushiroad, who you may know from Cardfight Vanguard. However, Weiß Schwarz features cards and titles from popular franchises, from animes, from video games, from mangas, from comics, and even movies, and anything anime related really. So you got series from Hololive, Love Live, Sword Art Online, and even comics like Marvel, and even from cartoons such as Adventure Time.
However, unlike other card games, not all sets are available in both languages. In Japan, there are a lot more sets available, such as Love Live Nijigasaki, Marvel, and World Trigger. However, English does have a lot of the popular sets that are available in Japan, such as Sao, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, Kaguya-sama, and they do also have English exclusive sets as well, like Adventure Time and Ruby.
Currently, there are 4 different formats available to play in Weiß Schwarz. They are Neo Standard format, Side Restricted format, and Title Restricted format. The first one being Neo Standard, which is by far the most popular format. And in this format, each player chooses a title and constructs a deck with cards only from that title. Next, there's the Standard format, and in Standard, you can pretty much use any card in the entire pool of Weiß Schwarz. Then there's the Side Restricted format. Each set in Weiß Schwarz is split into 2 different sides, one being Weiß, the other one being Schwarz. And in this Side Restricted format, you can only build a deck using cards from the Weiß side or the Schwarz side. Lastly, there's the Title Restricted format, where you can only enter that tournament with a certain title. So for example, if you're entering a Sword Art Online title tournament, every player must use Sword Art Online. However, with all these formats, most players will just focus on Neo Standard.
Weiß Schwarz has a lot of unique terms, so there might be a few things that don't really make sense at first. Once you start to grasp like the play area as well as how a turn gets played out, everything might start to come together. Now moving on to the different types of cards in Weiß Schwarz. There are 3 different types. First one we'll go over are character cards. Character cards are like monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or creatures in Magic. They'll be the ones that stay on the field and attack and deal damage to your opponent. Starting with the top left, we have the level of the card, and this can be 0, 1, 2, or 3. Underneath that, we have the cost, which is how much stock you need to pay in order to play this card. That'll make sense later on. Top right, we have the trigger. Below that, we have the card effects, any flavor text. The bottom area here represents what color the card is, the name of the card. If the set is available in both English and Japanese, the Japanese name will be above the English. To the right of that, we have the set the card belongs to, the traits of the card, the power, the soul, and the serial number. Certain cards have a special icon known as clock icon or alarm in Japanese. These abilities can be used in the clock. These are event cards. They have similar attributes to characters, but they are more like sorceries, like in Magic, or spell cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! They don't have power or soul or traits. Another special symbol is the counterattack icon or backups. Either characters or events can have a counterattack icon, and we'll go over what that means later on. Lastly, we have Climax cards. These cards are very unique to Weiß Schwarz. Like events and characters, they have name, they have an effect and color, but they have unique triggers. We won't go into detail about the Climax triggers just yet. We will revisit them once we've gone over some more aspects of the game. All the cards follow a color ruling. For cards level 1 and higher and Climax cards, you cannot play them unless you have the same color in your level up zone or in your clock zone, and that'll make sense as we go on.
So we're going to quickly go over deck construction in Weiß Schwarz. Every deck must be 50 cards exactly, and you can only run 4 copies of a single card unless that card text states otherwise. There are 4 different colors in Weiß Schwarz: yellow, green, red, blue. You could run any combination of colors that you want. Your deck must also have 8 climaxes, no more and no less. As for the format, we're assuming you're going to be playing Neo Standard since that is the most popular format in Weiß Schwarz, and so your deck must consist of cards only from that series. So for example, if you're making Hololive, you can only use cards in Hololive. However, do keep in mind some sets have multiple booster packs that support it, such as Sword Art Online, the Capo, but sometimes some sets can be a little complicated. Just because they're in the same franchise does not mean you can mix and match them, such as you cannot run original Love Live with Love Live Sunshine, or you can't run Love Live Superstars with Love Live Nijigasaki. You can look up at the official website to see what sets you can run together for Neo Standard. Next, we'll go over what the field looks like in Weiß Schwarz, or also known as the stage in this game. First of all, we got the deck here on the right side. Underneath that is your waiting room. In the front, at the very top, the first 3 slots are the center stage, and behind that, the 2 back row cards is the backstage. Underneath that, you have the clock, and to the left of that, you have your level zone. Above that is the climax zone, where your climax cards go when you play them. And over to the left of that, you have the stock. And lastly, above your deck, you have the memory zone, which you can also think of as removed from game in other card games. Alright guys, so we're going to go over how a turn looks like in Weiß Schwarz, and for that we're going to use the official mats supplied by Bushiroad that you get from every trial deck, and we'll be using our real cards. So first of all, how do you win in Weiß Schwarz? In Weiß Schwarz, you have a level up zone that we've talked about earlier, and you win by making your opponent hit level 4 before you. Now that may sound kind of weird because leveling up is generally a good thing, and it is, but it'll make sense as we go on. So whoever hits level 4 first loses. So just like every other card game, when you guys start, shuffle your decks, determine who goes first, and then you guys are ready to play. So in Weiß Schwarz, the opening hand consists of 5 cards. So first you'll draw 5 cards. And like a lot of other card games, there's also a mulligan. And in this game, to mulligan, you discard however many cards you want from your opening hand, and you put it to the waiting room, and you draw the same amount. So in this case, I think I'm going to mulligan these 2 cards, and then I'll draw 2 more. And after both players have mulliganed, you guys are ready to play. So the first phase in Weiß Schwarz is stand-up phase, where you get any cards that are in rest, and you put them to stand. Next up is draw phase. Pretty self-explanatory, just draw a card. And then after that, there's a clock phase, which is pretty unique in this game. The clock phase is when you have the opportunity to put 1 card from your hand to clock, and you draw 2 cards. So you're essentially taking 1 damage to draw 2 cards, which is a really good thing. So after that, you draw 2. Then you enter main phase. Main phase is like a lot of other games where you just play as many cards as you like, and you can play any event that you want, and you can also move cards to any slot that you want, and you can even move them back. So you can do all of this during your main phase. In Weiß Schwarz, as you see, both players start at level 0, and so you can only play cards from your hand that are equal to your level or lower. So at the start of the game, both players only have access to level 0s, and climaxes are also considered level 0 as well. So when you're done playing all your cards, so for me, I think I'm just going to play maybe these 2 cards here, like that. And once you're ready, once you're done setting up your field, you enter the climax phase. And in the climax phase, you play any climax card that you want into the climax zone. And you resolve the effect and the other corresponding effects along with it. I don't want to right now, so I'm going to enter the attack phase. In this game, the characters in the center stage are the ones that can attack. The characters in the backstage cannot attack, and they cannot be attacked. So also the turn player going first can only attack with one character. So that's why I'm only going to play this one Miku, and I'm going to attack once. In this game, there's 3 different types of attacks. There's a direct attack, a front attack, and a side attack. And in the attack phase, there's a whole bunch of little steps like a lot of other card games, and we'll go through a few right now. So the character in Weiß Schwarz, you can only attack the row in front of the character. So since there's no character in front of her, it's automatically a direct attack. And in a direct attack, any soul damage you deal an additional 1. So first I'm going to enter the attack declaration step, which is I put a character from stand to rest, and they must be in stand to attack. And you declare what type of attack. So since there's no character in front of her, it's automatically direct attack. So a direct attack, then you enter trigger step, where you reveal the top card of your deck, and any triggers on that character gets added to the card. So since this card has no triggers, it doesn't gain any additional effects. So in this case, Miku has 1 soul damage, and since it's a direct attack, it's +1, so my opponent will be taking 2 damage. There's also a counter attack step, but we'll be going over that shortly. Since this is a direct attack, that step is automatically skipped. So anything you trigger immediately goes to your stock, and then your opponent takes damage. We'll go over damage in just a second. So after you're done with attacking with all your characters, then you enter the encore step. Then after the encore step, then you enter the end phase, where any effects that need to be resolved happen, and then it's your opponent's turn. So now we're going to be going over the attack phase in a bit more detail. We're going to be showing the counter attack step and the 2 different type of attacks, including front attack and side attack. So I'm going to be the player receiving damage because it's my opponent's turn right now. So my opponent's turn, field is set up, and he's going to start attacking me. So he's going to start with the level 3 Miku. She has 10k power as opposed to the 500 power I have. So first is the attack declaration. So my opponent's going to declare front attack and put this Miku from stand to rest. Then they go to trigger step. So they reveal the top card. It has no triggers, so it doesn't gain any additional soul. So it's dealing 2 soul to me. So the card my opponent triggers also goes to stock. Then we go to a counter attack step, where I can choose to play a backup in my hand if I so wanted to, but I don't want to right now, so we're going to go over that. Then we go to damage step, and before the 2 characters actually battle each other, I take the soul damage first. So the level 3 Miku has 2 soul, so I'll be taking 2 damage. And how I take damage is I get the top card of my deck and put it to my clock, equal to how much soul damage I'm taking. So in this scenario, I'm taking 2 damage. So I get the top 2 cards, put it to my clock, and that's how I take damage. So I took 2. After that is the battle step. Now the 2 characters actually battle each other, and then you guys compare the power, and whoever has lower power gets put in reverse. In this case, my Yotsuba is only 500 power, so she will go from stand to reverse. When she's in reverse, it will show that she will go into the waiting room at the end of the turn. But for now, she's still on the field, but she is in the reverse position. All right, so next up, my opponent's attack phase, so he can still continue his attack. So now he has a level 1 Nino, 5,000 power against my level 1 Yotsuba at 4,500 power. So same thing, my opponent's gonna go to attack declaration, put Nino from stand to rest, declare a front attack, go to trigger step. So trigger. So this level 3 Miku does have a soul trigger here. So now he's going to be dealing 2 damage because it's the 1 plus the 1. So that goes to his stock. And now we can enter the counter attack step. My Yotsuba being at 4,500 power, I do want to back up now. So to back up, you must follow the level ruling. So I'm going to play my level 2 Miku backup. So to play this, I need to pay 1, which I will, and then play the backup. I'm not going to go over the backup effect. I'll just go over the backup power just to keep the video more simple. In this case, it's a 2,500 backup. So after you pay cost, the battling character, being this Yotsuba, gets plus 2,500 power. So now she is at 7k, which is stronger than the level 1 Nino. And after that resolve, this goes to the waiting room. But first, so now that's a counterattack step. I use my backup, so she's now 7k. But we still go to damage step first. So I'll be still taking the soul damage. So I'll be taking 2 damage since my opponent triggered. So once again, card from top deck to clock. So, okay, 1. So I triggered, the damage I took is a climax. Every time you take damage, and if it's a climax, that damage is canceled. So in this case, since I revealed the climax, the damage is canceled. Even though I took it at the first damage, the entire attack damage is canceled. So I don't even bother with the second damage. So that ends that attack. But now we go to battle step. And in battle step, since I have 7k power and this one only has 5k power, now that I'm stronger, it goes to reverse, symbolizing that now she will go to the waiting room at the end of the turn. And my Yotsuba stays alive. And lastly, now we'll go over to the last attack. So my opponent's Nino, being at 105k, against my level 3 Ichika, being 9k, my opponent can't run her over, so my opponent's going to declare a side attack. So once again, attack declaration from stand to rest, he declares a side. So in a side attack, you still trigger, so we'll go to the trigger step. So this has a trigger, so my opponent will be dealing 2 damage. However, in a side attack and a direct attack, we skip the counter attack step, so I can't back up if I wanted to, but we still go to damage step. But how damage works in a side attack is you get the sum of the character's soul and you subtract it from the level of the card. And that's how much damage I take. Since my opponent is dealing 2 soul damage total and I have a level 3, it pretty much hits -1. So my opponent is not actually dealing any damage to me. The advantage of this is, of course, you still gain a stock, even though you don't deal any damage. So because my opponent is essentially dealing -1 damage to me, I just don't take any damage. And lastly, now we go to the encore step. Since my opponent is done attacking with all 3 characters, we enter encore. And in this phase, or step I should say, we choose what characters that are in reverse, and we'll go to waiting room, or we will perform an encore. Encore can be done by certain cards with certain effects, usually hand encore or clock encore are the most common ones, but in Weiß Schwarz, there's a universal pay 3 encore to save a character. It's not listed on their text, it's just a universal mechanic. In this situation, I don't have any stock to pay 3 for to save her, so she will go to waiting room. However, my opponent does have 3 stock from attacking me 3 times. So he will pay the 3 and he will encore his level 1 Nino. When the character is encored, it technically goes to the waiting room, then it comes back in rest, which is actually imported in certain rulings. But to keep things simple, the character pretty much returns back to the field as rest. And that's pretty much the 3 different types of attacks, including all the different phases in them. But I guess lastly, for example, we'll go over how to perform a level up. So for example, let's say my opponent attacks me, let's say like this. So he does a front attack, triggers nothing, so I take 2 damage. So my Ichika is only 9k. So first, I'll trigger, counter attack. I'm not going to back up. damage, so I take 2. So 1, 2. Then, before we resolve the battle step, we're gonna go, I need to level up. After you take damage from a character's attack or from an effect, once you hit past 7, or past 7, you must level up first. And to level up, you get a card in your waiting room or in your clock, and you put it to your level up zone. And the rest of the cards in here go to waiting room, and any leftover cards go to clock, as so. And of course, if you make your opponent hit level 4 before you, then that's how you win the game. But lastly, I know it's kind of a lot, guys, but lastly, so you kind of rinse repeat that until the game's over. But what happens when you run out of cards? As you see, there's a lot of cards moving around. You're drawing a lot. They're going to stock, going to waiting room, what have you. In this game, when you deck out, what happens is you get all the cards in your waiting room and you shuffle it. And then this, essentially, your waiting room becomes your deck once again. However, after you're done shuffling, you take a refresh damage. So you get the top card of your clock or your deck and you put it to clock. And the refresh damage is uncancelable. So even though I did hit a climax for my refresh damage, it cannot be canceled. And in a typical game of Weiß Schwarz, it is very common to refresh multiple times in a game, maybe 2 to 4 times in an average game. And that's pretty much it for an example turn in Weiß Schwarz.
Next, we'll briefly go over the special triggers found on Climax cards. Each color has their own unique triggers, and these effects only happen when you trigger these climaxes. So there is a universal 2-soul climax trigger. Starting with yellow, we have bounce or wind trigger. When you trigger this, you can pick a character on your opponent's stage, send that character back to your opponent's hand. This climax also has an additional soul icon, so you're still getting an extra soul damage when you trigger this. Same thing with this next card, shot or flare. If the damage you deal is canceled by your opponent, they take 1 damage, which is also cancelable. Choice, you pick a character from your waiting room that has a soul trigger. Either put it to your stock or add it to your hand. And this will go to your stock before the climax does. For green, we have gold sack. When you trigger this, you get the top card of your library and put that to stock, and then your climax goes to stock. Gold bar, you add it to your hand and take the top card of your library and put it to stock. For red, we have gate or door. When you trigger it, you can choose a character in your waiting room, add it to your hand. Standby, when you trigger it, you can choose a character in your waiting room equal to your level +1 or lower and play that character rested on your stage in any slot. You can also do that effect when you play this climax. For blue, we have arch or pants. When you trigger it, you can grab a climax in your waiting room and add it to your hand. Okay, book or draw. When you trigger it, you can draw the top card of your library.
All right, so to put everything together, we're going to just go over a couple turns and just show you guys how a normal turn kind of progresses in this game. So we're going to determine that I'm going first. So once again, draw 5. And then you can mulligan, so we discard as many cards as we like, and we draw the same amount. So I will discard 1.
Discarding 1.
Yes. And then we draw, same amount. So we both start at level 0. So since I'm the turn player, I'll start. So draw. And draw phase. Then I'll enter clock phase. So I'll clock this to draw 2. Then we enter main phase. And so I'll play this Nino and this Yotsuba. We're not going to really be going over their effects. We're just going to act like they're all vanilla cards just for the sake of simplicity. So after I play all the cards I want, we'll go to, in the main phase, we'll go to Climax phase, but I don't really want to play a Climax. And then we'll enter attack phase. Oh, also, since I'm level 0, keep in mind I can only play level 0 cards. So attack phase, attack declaration. So I'll put my Needle from stand to rest, declare direct attack since there's no characters in front of her. Trigger, no triggers. So we skip a counterattack step since there's no characters. Go to damage step, so he takes 2.
Okay, so from the top of my library to the clock, 1, 2.
And then there's no character in front, so no battle step. And since that's my last attack, we enter encore step, but there's no characters to be encored. Then we just go to end phase. And okay. I can only attack once since it's my first turn. And characters in the back can't attack, of course. So, your turn.
All right, so draw. Enter clock phase, clock 1. Draw 2 cards. Enter my main phase. I'm going to be playing 1 card. This Coco. Now, on to Climax phase. I won't be playing the Climax. Skip directly to attack phase. Since there's a character in front of her, I will be declaring a front attack. Same thing. Turn the card sideways to rest. Trigger. So this has a soul icon, so I'll be dealing 1, 2, since it's a front attack. So my opponent takes 2 damage.
All right, so take the cards top library to clock. So 1, 2. So I take the damage, and now we enter battle step. So the difference in power, 3k to 15. This goes to reverse. And since that's all his attacks, we go to encore step. I can't pay the pay 3 encore, and she doesn't have an effect to encore her, so she'll go to waiting room. And
then I end.
Cool.
That's the end of my turn.
Yes, so once again, my turn. So stand phase, stand up phase. All my characters are already in stand, so I draw. Once again, clock phase. Hand to clock, draw 2. Now we will enter main phase. I will play 1, 2, 3 cards. And now we will go to Climax phase. I do want to play a Climax this time. And since I do have a yellow in my clock, I can play yellow cards as well. So I will be playing this Climax here. This Climax is all my characters plus 1k and plus 1 soul for the turn. And now I'll go to attack phase. So attack declaration, stand to rest, direct. So I hit a trigger. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 damage. This gives all my characters 1k and 1 soul. So he's taking 4.
So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And since I hit 7 damage in my clock, that means I need to level up right now. So I take 1 card from this damage, put it in my level zone, and then the rest go to waiting room. And then his turn continues.
Yep. So my attack phase. So once again, I will put my card from stand to rest, declare a direct attack, trigger. I hit a soul. So 1, 2, 3, 4 damage once again.
Okay. So I reveal the Climax. So that means this attack, the damage I will be taking is canceled, and this goes directly to waiting room.
All right. And now I'll do my last attack. With the 1k, 1 soul, she's 3k. That's also 3k. So I will just declare a side attack. So since it's a level 0, there's no soul penalty loss. So this is still dealing 1, 2, 3 damage.
Okay. Then 1, 2, and 3.
Excellent. And then we enter encore. Oh yeah, then we enter encore phase. No characters are in reverse, so nothing happens. This goes to waiting room, and that's my turn.
Okay, so the start of my turn, stand up phase. This Coco will go back to stand since she survived my opponent's turn. Enter draw phase. Clock phase. Draw 2. Main phase. Since I am level 1 and I do have blue in my clock and my level up zone, I can play this card. Pay cost. She costs 1. I'll also play this level 1 Subaru. So since I have both blue and yellow in my level up zone or in my clock, I can play both of these cards since I am level 1. So moving on to climax phase, I won't play a climax. Attack phase, they're all stronger. So starting with this one, I'll declare a front attack. Trigger. This has no trigger, so just 1 damage.
1.
Front attack with this one. This has a soul, so 2 damage.
So I hit a climax, so cancel.
Okay, and then my last attack, front attack with this. No trigger, so just 1 damage again.
Cancel again.
All right, and now the encore step.
I will pay 3, encore this card. So pay 3. Don't forget that's the universal ruling. Goes back to rest, and these 2 go to the waiting room. And then once again, stand up phase, draw, clock, and that's it, guys. We kind of just rinse and repeat that process until one of us hits level 4. And that's how a game of Weiß Schwarz looks like. Alright guys, that's it for our tutorial video. If you're new to the game, we're hoping this helped clear some things up. And if you want to see some duels and deck profiles, you're welcome to check us out. We try to be as helpful as possible in all our videos. And just keep in mind, we are Japanese focused. But we do our best to explain what's going on when we do play the game. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we hope you guys stick around. Peace.